There is a bird that eats week-old corpses for breakfast, and it has never once called in sick. If you ate what this bird eats for lunch, you would be in a hospital by dinner, or honestly, a morgue. But the vulture just tears in, swallows, and looks around for seconds. So, what does this thing know that the rest of us don't? Let's talk about the most disgusting superhero in nature. But before it can eat a corpse, it has to find one. And most birds are basically nose blind. The turkey vulture is the exception. It can smell death itself. Rotting flesh gives off a gas called ethyl mercaptan, and this bird can detect it at a few parts per trillion from up to a mile away. That's not a typo. A few molecules of something died over there drifting on the wind, and the vulture locks on. It has one of the largest smell centers in the brain of any bird ever measured. So while other animals are still wondering what that faint whiff is, the vulture has already booked a table. Here's the thing about a dead body left out in the sun: it is not just meat, it is a party, and the guest list is horrifying. We are talking anthrax, cholera, botulism, the most powerful toxin known to science by weight. A lion that eats meat this far gone can get seriously ill. A hyena will think twice. The vulture lands on the same rotting body and treats it like a five-star buffet. So, how is it not dead? The first answer is inside its gut. A vulture's stomach acid is monstrous. We are talking a pH of around 1. For reference, that is roughly the strength of battery acid. It is strong enough to dissolve bone. So most of those deadly bacteria hit that acid and simply cease to exist. Anthrax, gone. Cholera, dissolved. That guest list of horrors gets checked at the door and thrown into a vat of acid. Nature basically gave this bird a stomach that doubles as a decontamination chamber. But here is where it gets weird, because acid alone doesn't explain everything. In 2014, scientists actually studied what lives inside vultures. They swabbed the faces and the guts of 50 of them. On the face, they found hundreds of types of bacteria, which makes sense because this bird sticks its head inside dead things for a living. But inside the gut, almost everything had been wiped out. The acid had cleared the room except for two. Two groups of bacteria not only survived the acid, they moved in and set up permanent residence. And here's the punchline: these are bacteria that, in most animals, cause serious disease. But the vulture doesn't fight them, it hired them. These bugs help finish digesting the rotten meat that the acid didn't handle. The vulture turned its two most dangerous tenants into unpaid employees. So the gut isn't just a weapon, it's a bouncer with a very, very short guest list. Okay, so the inside is handled, but this bird spends its whole day standing inside corpses. The outside should be a biohazard, which brings us to the head, that famous, bald, wrinkly, deeply unphotogenic head. It's not a fashion choice. When you shove your face inside a rotting body every single day, feathers would trap the gore. And trapped gore means trapped bacteria. Bare skin, though, you can bake clean in the sun. The ugliest feature on this bird is actually a self-cleaning oven. And then there's the part nobody warned you about. The vulture pees on its own legs on purpose. That urine is loaded with acid and uric acid. So it works like hand sanitizer for its feet. It also cools the bird down by several degrees in the heat, like a built-in air conditioner. Oh, and if you corner one, it has a party trick. It throws up on you, not a gentle little heave. A vulture can launch a stream of acidic, half-digested corpse, vomit up to 10 feet. Remember, this is stomach acid, strong enough to dissolve bone. Getting hit with it burns, and it smells like the worst thing you have ever imagined. And there's a bonus. Emptying its stomach makes the bird lighter so it can take off and escape faster. It weaponized its own lunch. So let's just recap what this animal is doing. Acid strong enough to melt bone, a gut that recruits its own deadly bacteria as staff, a self baking clean head, and a leg mounted sanitizer and cooling system that runs on its own pee, and a 10-foot acid vomit cannon for self defense. This is not a gross bird. This is a walking biohazard disposal unit, and it does all of this fast. A single vulture can strip more than 2 pounds of meat off a carcass in a minute. A flock of 100 can reduce a body the size of a small deer to a clean skeleton in about 3 minutes. 3 minutes, a whole carcass and the disease riding along with it gone before it can rot, spread, or poison the water. Nothing else in nature comes close to that speed. And that job matters way more than you think. Because here's what happens when you take the vulture away. In the 1990s, India had tens of millions of vultures. Then farmers started treating their cattle with a common painkiller called diclofenac. It was harmless to cows. It was lethal to the vultures that ate them. In just a few years, the vulture population collapsed by over 95%. It's one of the fastest declines of any bird species ever recorded. And suddenly, all those dead animals the vultures used to erase just sat there. So the rats and the feral dogs moved in to take the job. And feral dogs carry something vultures never spread: rabies. One study estimated that the collapse of the vultures was linked to roughly 500,000 human deaths. Let that sit for a second. The ugliest, most stomach-turning bird you can think of was quietly keeping 500,000 people alive. It never got a thank you. It never got a nice thumbnail. It just showed up, ate the thing that could kill us, and asked for nothing. So the next time you see one circling overhead, don't be creeped out. That's not a bad omen. That's the cleanup crew. And it's the only one at the table with the stomach for the job.